Friday, January 14th, 2000. Claire is 28. Henry is 36. Kendrick leads us through a maze of carpeted, dry-walled, acoustical-tiled hallways and into a conference room. There are no windows, only blue carpet, and a long, polished black table surrounded by padded swivel chairs. There's a whiteboard and a few magic markers, a clock over the door, and a coffee urn with cups, cream, and sugar ready beside it. Kendrick and I sit at the table, but Henry paces around the room. Kendrick takes off his glasses and massages the sides of his small nose with his fingers. The door opens, and a young Hispanic man in surgical scrubs wheels a cart into the room. On the cart is a cage covered with a cloth. "Where do you want it?" the young man asks, and Kendrick says, "Just leave the whole cart, if you don't mind," and the man shrugs and leaves. Kendrick walks to the door and turns a knob, and the lights dim to twilight. I can barely see Henry standing next to the cage. Kendrick walks to him and silently removes the cloth. The smell of cedar wafts from the cage. I stand and stare into it. I don't see anything but the core of a roll of toilet paper, some food bowls, a water bottle, an exercise wheel, fluffy cedar chips. Kendrick opens the top of the cage and reaches in, scoops out something small and white. Henry and I crowd around, staring at the tiny mouse that sits blinking on Kendrick's palm. Kendrick takes a tiny pen light out of his pocket, turns it on, and rapidly flashes it over the mouse. The mouse tenses, and then it's gone. "Wow," I say. Kendrick places the cloth back over the cage and turns the lights up. "It's being published in next week's issue of Nature," he says, smiling. "It's the lead article." "Congratulations," Henry says. He glances at the clock. "How long are they usually gone, and where do they go?" Kendrick gestures at the urn, and we both nod. "They tend to be gone about 10 minutes or so," he says, pouring 3 cups of coffee as he speaks and handing us each one. "They go to the animal lab in the basement, where they were born. They don't seem to be able to go more than a few minutes either way." Henry nods. "They'll go longer as they get older." "Yes, that's been true so far." "How did you do it?" I ask Kendrick. I still can't quite believe that he's done it. Kendrick blows on his coffee and takes a sip, makes a face. The coffee is bitter, and I add sugar to mine. "Well," he says, "it helped a lot that Celera has been sequencing the whole mouse genome. It told us where to look for the 4 genes we were targeting, but we could have done it without that. We started by cloning your genes and then used enzymes to snip out the damaged portions of DNA. Then we took those pieces and snuck them into mouse embryos at the 4-cell division stage. That was the easy part." Henry raises his eyebrows. "Sure, of course, Claire and I do that all the time in our kitchen. So, what was the hard part?" He sits on the table and sets his coffee beside him. In the cage, I can hear the squeaking of the exercise wheel. Kendrick glances at me. "The hard part was getting the dams, the mother mice, to carry the altered mice to term. They kept dying, hemorrhaging to death." Henry looks very alarmed. "The mothers died?" Kendrick nods. "The mothers died, and the babies died. We couldn't figure it out, so we started watching them around the clock, and then we saw what was going on. The embryos were traveling out of their dam's womb, and then in again, and the mothers bled to death internally. Or they would just abort the fetus at the 10-day mark. It was very frustrating." Henry and I exchange looks and then look away. "We can relate to that," I tell Kendrick. "Yes," he says, "but we solved the problem." "How?" Henry asks. "We decided that it might be an immune reaction. Something about the fetal mice was so foreign that the dam's immune systems were trying to fight them as though they were a virus or something. So we suppressed the dam's immune systems, and then it all worked like magic." My heart is beating in my ears. Like magic. Kendrick suddenly stoops and grabs for something on the floor. "Gotcha," he says, displaying the mouse in his cupped hands. "Bravo," Henry says. "What's next?" "Gene therapy," Kendrick tells him. "Drugs." He shrugs. "Even though we can make it happen, we still don't know why it happens or how it happens, so we try to understand that." He offers Henry the mouse. Henry cups his hands, and Kendrick tips the mouse into them. Henry inspects it curiously. "It has a tattoo," he says. "It's the only way we can keep track of them," Kendrick tells him. "They drive the animal lab technicians nuts. They're always escaping." Henry laughs. That's our Darwinian advantage, he says. We escape. He strokes the mouse, and it shits on his palm. Zero tolerance for stress, says Kendrick, and puts the mouse back in its cage where it flees into the toilet paper core. As soon as we get home, I'm on the phone to Dr. Montague, babbling about immunosuppressants and internal bleeding. She listens carefully, and then tells me to come in next week, and in the meantime she will do some research. I put down the phone, and Henry regards me nervously over the Times business section. It's worth a try, I tell him. Lots of dead mouse moms before they figured it out, Henry says. But it worked. Kendrick made it work. Henry just says, yeah, and goes back to reading. I open my mouth and then change my mind and walk out to the studio, too excited to argue. It worked like magic. Like magic.
5. Thursday, May 11th, 2000. Henry is 39. Claire is 28. I'm walking down Clark Street in late spring 2000. There's nothing too remarkable about this. It's a lovely warm evening in Andersonville, and all the fashionable youth are sitting at little tables drinking fancy cold coffee at Coppies, or sitting at medium-sized tables eating couscous at Reza's, or just strolling, ignoring the Swedish knick-knack stores and exclaiming over each other's dogs. I should be at work in 2002, but oh well. Matt will have to cover for my afternoon show and tell, I guess. I make a mental note to take him out to dinner. As I idle along, I unexpectedly see Claire across the street. She is standing in front of George's, the vintage clothing store, looking at a display of baby clothes. Even her back is wistful. Even her shoulders sigh with longing. As I watch her, she leans her forehead against the shop window and stands there, dejected. I cross the street, dodging a UPS van and a Volvo, and stand behind her. Claire looks up, startled, and sees my reflection in the glass. "Oh, it's you," she says and turns. "I thought you were at the movies with Gomez." Claire seems a little defensive, a little guilty, as though I have caught her doing something illicit. I probably am. I'm supposed to be at work, actually, in 2002. Claire smiles. She looks tired, and I do the dates in my head and realize that our 5th miscarriage was 3 weeks ago. I hesitate, and then I put my arms around her, and to my relief she relaxes against me, leans her head on my shoulder. "How are you?" I ask. "Terrible," she says softly. "Tired." I remember. She stayed in bed for weeks. "Henry, I quit." She watches me, trying to gauge my reaction to this, weighing her intention against my knowledge. I give up. It isn't going to happen. Is there anything to stop me from giving her what she needs? I can't think of a single reason not to tell her. I stand and rack my brain for anything that would preclude Claire knowing. All I remember is her certainty, which I am about to create. Persevere, Claire. What? Hang in there. In my present, we have a baby. Claire closes her eyes, whispers, "Thank you." I don't know if she's talking to me or to God. It doesn't matter. "Thank you," she says again, looking at me, talking to me, and I feel as though I am an angel in some demented version of the Annunciation. I lean over and kiss her. I can feel resolve, joy, purpose coursing through Claire. I remember the tiny head full of black hair crowning between Claire's legs, and I marvel at how this moment creates that miracle, and vice versa. "Thank you. Thank you." "Did you know?" Claire asks me. "No." She looks disappointed. "Not only did I not know, I did everything I could think of to prevent you from getting pregnant again." "Great," Claire laughs. "So whatever happens, I just have to be quiet and let it rip?" "Yep." Claire grins at me, and I grin back. Let it rip.
6. Saturday, June 3rd, 2000. Claire is 29, Henry is 36. I'm sitting at the kitchen table, idly flipping through the Chicago Tribune and watching Henry unpack the groceries. The brown paper bags stand evenly lined up on the counter, and Henry produces ketchup, chicken, Gouda cheese from them like a magician. I keep waiting for the rabbit and the silk scarves. Instead, it's mushrooms, black beans, fettuccine, lettuce, a pineapple, skim milk, coffee, radishes, turnips, a rutabaga, oatmeal, butter, cottage cheese, rye bread, mayonnaise, eggs, razors, deodorant, Granny Smith apples, half and half, bagels, shrimp, cream cheese, frosted mini wheats, marinara sauce, frozen orange juice, carrots, condoms, sweet potatoes. Condoms? I get up and walk to the counter, pick up the blue box, and shake it at Henry. What, are you having an affair? He looks up at me defiantly as he rummages in the freezer. No, actually, I had an epiphany. I was standing in the toothpaste aisle when it happened. Want to hear it? No. Henry stands up and turns to me. His expression is like a sigh. Well, here it is anyway. We can't keep trying to have a baby. Traitor. We agreed to keep trying. I think 5 miscarriages is enough. I think we have tried. No, I mean, why not try again? I try to keep the pleading out of my voice, to keep the anger that rises up in my throat from spilling into my words. Henry walks around the counter, stands in front of me but doesn't touch me, knows that he can't touch me. Claire, the next time you miscarry, it's going to kill you, and I am not going to keep doing something that's going to end up with you dead. 5 pregnancies. I know you want to try again, but I can't. I can't take it anymore, Claire. I'm sorry. I walk out the back door and stand in the sun by the raspberry bushes. Our children, dead and wrapped in silky, gampy tissue paper, cradled in tiny wooden boxes, are in shade now, in the late afternoon, by the roses. I feel the heat of the sun on my skin and shiver for them, deep in the garden, cool on this mild June day. Help, I say in my head to our future child. He doesn't know, so I can't tell him. Come soon.
Friday, June 9th, 2000. November 19th, 1986. Henry is 36. Claire is 15. It's 8:45 a.m. on a Friday morning, and I'm sitting in the waiting room of a certain Dr. Robert Gonzalez. Claire doesn't know I'm here. I've decided to get a vasectomy. Dr. Gonzalez's office is on Sheridan Road near Diversey, in a posh medical center just up the way from Lincoln Park Conservatory. This waiting room is decorated in browns and hunter green, lots of paneling and framed prints of Derby winners from the 1880s. Very manly. I feel as though I should be wearing a smoking jacket and clenching a large cigar between my jaws. I need a drink. The nice woman at Planned Parenthood assured me in her soothing, practiced voice that this would hardly hurt a bit. There are 5 other guys sitting here with me. I wonder if they've got the clap, or maybe their prostates are acting up. Maybe some of them are like me, sitting here waiting to end their careers as potential dads. I feel a certain solidarity with these unknown men, all of us sitting here together, brown wooden leather room on this gray morning, waiting to walk into the examining room and take off our pants. There's a very old man who sits leaning forward with his hands clasped around his cane, his eyes closed behind thick glasses that magnify his eyelids. He's probably not here to get snipped. The teenage boy who sits leafing through an ancient copy of Esquire is feigning indifference. I close my eyes and imagine that I am in a bar, and the bartender has her back to me now as she mixes a good single malt scotch with just a small amount of tepid water. Perhaps it's an English pub. Yes, that would account for the decor. The man on my left coughs, a deep, lung-shaking sort of cough, and when I open my eyes, I'm still sitting in a doctor's waiting room. I sneak a look at the watch of the guy on my right. He's got one of those immense sports watches that you can use to time sprints or call the mothership. It's 9:58. My appointment is in 2 minutes. The doctor seems to be running late, though. The receptionist calls, "Mr. Liston," and the teenager stands up abruptly and walks through the heavy paneled door into the office. The rest of us look at each other, furtively, as though we are on the subway and someone is trying to sell us streetwise. I am rigid with tension, and I remind myself that this is a necessary and good thing that I am about to do. I am not a traitor. I am not a traitor. I am saving Claire from horror and pain. She will never know. It will not hurt. Maybe it will hurt a little. Someday I will tell her, and she will realize I had to do it. We tried. I have no choice. I am not a traitor. Even if it hurts, it will be worth it. I am doing it because I love her. I think of Claire sitting on our bed, covered in blood, weeping, and I feel sick. "Mr. de Tamble?" I rise, and now I really feel sick. My knees buckle, my head swims, and I'm bent over, retching. I'm on my hands and knees. The ground is cold and covered with the stubble of dead grass. There's nothing in my stomach. I'm spitting up mucus. It's cold. I look up. I'm in the clearing, in the meadow. The trees are bare. The sky is flat clouds with early darkness approaching. I'm alone. I get up and find the clothes box. Soon I am wearing a Gang of Four t-shirt and a sweater and jeans, heavy socks and black military boots, a black wool overcoat and large baby blue mittens. Something has chewed its way into the box and made a nest. The clothes indicate the mid-80s. Claire is about 15 or 16. I wonder whether to hang around and wait for her or just go. I don't know if I can face Claire's youthful exuberance right now. I turn and walk toward the orchard. It looks like late November. The meadow is brown and makes a rattling noise in the wind. Crows are fighting over windfall apples at the edge of the orchard. Just as I reach them, I hear someone panting, running behind me. I turn, and it's Claire. "Henry!" She's out of breath. She sounds like she has a cold. I let her stand, rasping, for a minute. I can't talk to her. She stands, breathing, her breath steaming in front of her in white clouds, her hair vivid red in the gray and brown, her skin pink and pale. I turn and walk into the orchard. "Henry!" Claire follows me, catches my arm. "What? What did I do? Why won't you talk to me?" Oh, God. I tried to do something for you, something important, and it didn't work. I got nervous and ended up here. What was it? I can't tell you. I wasn't even going to tell you about it in the present. You wouldn't like it. Then why did you want to do it? Claire shivers in the wind. It was the only way. I couldn't get you to listen to me. I thought we could stop fighting if I did it. I sigh. I will try again, and, if necessary, again. Why are we fighting? Claire is looking up at me, tense and anxious. Her nose is running. Have you got a cold? Yes. What are we fighting about? It all began when the wife of your ambassador slapped the mistress of my prime minister at a soiree being held at the embassy. This affected the tariff on oatmeal, which led to high unemployment and rioting. Henry! Yes, just once. Would you stop making fun of me and tell me something I am asking you? I can't. Without apparent premeditation, Claire slaps me. Hard. I step back, surprised, glad. Hit me again. She is confused, shakes her head. Please, Claire, no. Why do you want me to hit you? I wanted to hurt you. I want you to hurt me. Please. I hang my head. What is the matter with you? Everything is terrible and I can't seem to feel it. What is terrible? What is going on? Don't ask me. Claire comes up, very close to me, and takes my hand. She pulls off the ridiculous blue mitten, brings my palm to her mouth, and bites. The pain is excruciating. She stops, and I look at my hand. Blood comes slowly, in tiny drops around the bite mark. I will probably get blood poisoning, but at the moment, I don't care. Tell me. Her face is inches from mine. I kiss her very roughly. She is resistant. I release her, and she turns her back on me. "That wasn't very nice," she says in a small voice. What is wrong with me? Claire at 15 is not the same person who's been torturing me for months, refusing to give up on having a baby, risking death and despair, turning lovemaking into a battlefield strewn with the corpses of children. I put my hands on her shoulders. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry, Claire. It's not you. Please. She turns. She's crying, and she's a mess. Miraculously, there's a Kleenex in my coat pocket. I dab at her face, and she takes the tissue from me and blows her nose. You never kissed me before. Oh, no. My face must be funny because Claire laughs. I can't believe it. What an idiot I am. Oh, Claire, just forget that, okay? Just erase it. It never happened. Come here. Take two, yes? Claire? She tentatively steps toward me. I put my arms around her. Look at her. Her eyes are rimmed red. Her nose is swollen. And she definitely has a bad cold. I place my hands over her ears and tip her head back and kiss her and try to put my heart into hers for safekeeping in case I lose it again.
Friday, June 9th, 2000. Claire is 29. Henry is 36. Henry has been terribly quiet, distracted, and pensive all evening. All through dinner he seemed to be mentally searching imaginary stacks for a book he'd read in 1942 or something. Plus his right hand is all bandaged up. After dinner he went into the bedroom and lay face down on the bed with his head hanging over the foot of the bed and his feet on my pillow. I went to the studio and scrubbed molds and decals and drank my coffee. But I wasn't enjoying myself because I couldn't figure out what Henry's problem was. Finally, I go back into the house. He is still lying in the same position, in the dark. I lie down on the floor. My back makes loud cracking sounds as I stretch out. Claire? Do you remember the first time I kissed you? Vividly. I'm sorry. Henry rolls over. I'm burning up with curiosity. What were you so upset about? You were trying to do something and it didn't work and you said I wouldn't like it. What was it? How do you manage to remember all that? I am the original elephant child. Are you going to tell me now? No. If I guess, will you tell me if I'm right? Probably not. Why not? Because I'm exhausted and I don't want to fight tonight. I don't want to fight either. I like lying here on the floor. It's kind of cold but very solid. You went to get a vasectomy. Henry is silent. He is so silent for so long that I want to put a mirror in front of his mouth to see if he's breathing. Finally, how did you know? I didn't exactly know. I was afraid that might be it, and I saw the note you made for the appointment with the doctor this morning. I burned that note. I saw the impression on the sheet below the one you wrote on. Henry groans. Okay, Sherlock, you got me. We continue to lie peaceably in the dark. Go ahead. What? Get a vasectomy, if you have to. Henry rolls over again and looks at me. All I see is his dark head against the dark ceiling. You're not yelling at me. No. I can't do this anymore either. I give up. You win. We'll stop trying to have a baby. I wouldn't exactly describe that as winning. It just seems necessary. Whatever. Henry climbs off the bed and sits on the floor with me. Thank you. You're welcome. He kisses me. I imagine the bleak November day in 1986 that Henry has just come from. The wind, the warmth of his body in the cold orchard. Soon, for the first time in many months, we're making love without worrying about the consequences. Henry has caught the cold I had 16 years ago. 4 weeks later, Henry has had his vasectomy, and I discover that I am pregnant for the 6th time. Baby Dreams. September 2000. Claire is 29. I dream I'm walking downstairs into my grandmother Abshire's basement. The long soot mark from the time the crow flew down the chimney is still there on the left-hand wall. The steps are dusty, and the handrail leaves gray marks on my hand as I steady myself. I descend and walk into the room that always scared me when I was little. In this room are deep shelves with rows and rows of canned goods, tomatoes and pickles, corn relish, and beets. They look embalmed. In one of the jars is the small fetus of a duck. I carefully open the jar and pour the duckling and the fluid into my hand. It gasps and retches. "Why did you leave me?" it asks, when it can speak. "I've been waiting for you." I dream that my mother and I are walking together down a quiet residential street in South Haven. I am carrying a baby. As we walk, the baby becomes heavier and heavier until I can barely lift it. I turn to Mama and tell her that I can't carry this baby any farther. She takes it from me easily, and we continue on. We come to a house and walk down the small walkway to its backyard. In the yard there are 2 screens and a slide projector. People are seated in lawn chairs, watching slides of trees. Half of a tree is on each screen. One half is summer and the other winter. They are the same tree, different seasons. The baby laughs and cries out in delight. I dream I am standing on the Sedgwick L platform, waiting for the Brown Line train. I'm carrying 2 shopping bags, which upon inspection turn out to contain boxes of saltine crackers and a very small, stillborn baby with red hair wrapped in saran wrap. I dream I am at home, in my old room. It's late at night. The room is dimly illuminated by the aquarium light. I suddenly realize with horror that there is a small animal swimming round and round the tank. I hastily remove the lid and net the animal, which turns out to be a gerbil with gills. "I'm so sorry," I say. "I forgot about you." The gerbil just stares at me reproachfully. I dream I am walking upstairs in Meadowlark House. All the furniture is gone. The rooms are empty. Dust floats in the sunlight, which makes golden pools on the polished oak floors. I walk down the long hall, glancing in the bedrooms, and come to my room, in which a small wooden cradle sits alone. There is no sound. I am afraid to look into the cradle. In Mama's room, white sheets are spread over the floor. At my feet is a tiny drop of blood, which touches the tip of a sheet and spreads as I watch until the entire floor is covered in blood. Saturday, September 23rd, 2000. Claire is 29. Henry is 37. I'm living underwater. Everything seems slow and far away. I know there's a world up there, a sunlit, quick world where time runs like dry sand through an hourglass. But down here, where I am, air and sound and time and feeling are thick and dense. I'm in a diving bell with this baby, just the 2 of us, trying to survive in this alien atmosphere, but I feel very alone. "Hello? Are you there?" No answer comes back. "He's dead," I tell Amit. "No," she says, smiling anxiously. "No, Claire, see? There's his heartbeat." I can't explain. Henry hovers around trying to feed me, massage me, cheer me up, until I snap at him. I walk across the yard into my studio. It's like a museum, a mausoleum, so still, nothing living or breathing, no ideas here, just things that stare at me accusingly. I'm sorry, I tell my blank empty drawing table, my dry vats and molds, the half-made sculptures. Stillborn, I think, looking at the blue iris paper-wrapped armature that seemed so hopeful in June. My hands are clean and soft and pink. I hate them. I hate this emptiness. I hate this baby. No, I don't hate him. I just can't find him. I sit at my drawing board with a pencil in my hand and a sheet of white paper before me. Nothing comes. I close my eyes and all I can think of is red. So I get a tube of watercolor, cadmium red dark, and I get a big mop of a brush and I fill a jar with water and I begin to cover the paper with red. It glistens. The paper is limp with moisture and darkens as it dries. I watch it drying. It smells of gum arabic. In the center of the paper, very small, in black ink, I draw a heart. Not a silly Valentine, but an anatomically correct heart. Tiny, doll-like, and then veins, delicate road maps of veins that reach all the way to the edges of the paper, that hold the small heart enmeshed like a fly in a spider web. See? There's his heartbeat. It has become evening. I empty the water jar and wash the brush. I lock the studio door, cross the yard, and let myself in the back door. Henry is making spaghetti sauce. He looks up as I come in. Better? He asks. Better, I reassure him, and myself. Wednesday, September 27th, 2000. Claire is 29. It's lying on the bed. There's some blood, but not so much. It's lying on its back, trying to breathe. Its tiny ribcage quivering, but it's too soon. It's convulsing, and blood is gushing from the cord in time with the beating of its heart. I kneel beside the bed and pick him up, my tiny boy, jerking like a small, freshly caught fish, drowning in air. I hold him, so gently, but he doesn't know I'm here, holding him. He's slippery and his skin is almost imaginary. His eyes are closed and I think wildly of mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, of 911 and Henry. Oh, don't go before Henry can see you. But his breath is bubbling with fluid, small sea creature breathing water. And then he opens his mouth wide and I can see right through him. And my hands are empty and he's gone. Gone. I don't know how long. Time passes. I'm kneeling. Kneeling, I pray. Dear God. Dear God, dear God. The baby stirs in my womb. Hush. Hide. I wake up in the hospital. Henry is there. The baby is dead.
7. Thursday, December 28th, 2000. Henry is 33 and 37. Claire is 29. I am standing in our bedroom in the future. It is night, but moonlight gives the room a surreal, monochromatic distinctness. My ears are ringing, as they often do in the future. I look down on Claire and myself, sleeping. It feels like death. I am sleeping tightly balled up, knees to chest, wound up in blankets, mouth slightly open. I want to touch me. I want to hold me in my arms, look into my eyes, but it won't happen that way. I stand for long minutes staring intently at my sleeping future self. Eventually I walk softly to Claire's side of the bed, kneel. It feels immensely like the present. I will myself to forget the other body in the bed, to concentrate on Claire. She stirs, her eyes open. She isn't sure where we are. Neither am I. I am overwhelmed by desire, by a longing to be connected to Claire as strongly as possible, to be here, now. I kiss her very lightly, lingering, thinking about nothing. She is drunk with sleep, moves her hand to my face, and wakes more as she feels the solidity of me. Now she is present. She runs her hand down my arm, a caress. I carefully peel the sheet from her, so as not to disturb the other me, of whom Claire is still not aware. I wonder if this other self is somehow impervious to waking, but decide not to find out. I am lying on top of Claire, covering her completely with my body. I wish I could stop her from turning her head, but she will turn her head any minute now. As I penetrate Claire, she looks at me, and I think I don't exist. And a second later, she turns her head and she sees me. She cries out, not loudly, and looks back at me, above her, in her. Then she remembers, accepts it. This is pretty strange, but it's okay. And in this moment, I love her more than life. Monday, February 12th, 2001. Henry is 37. Claire is 29. Claire has been in a strange mood all week. She's distracted. It's as though something only Claire can hear has riveted her attention, as though she's receiving revelations from God through her fillings, or trying to decode satellite transmissions of Russian cryptology in her head. When I ask her about it, she just smiles and shrugs. This is so unlike Claire that I am alarmed and immediately desist. I come home from work one evening, and I can see just by looking at Claire that something awful has happened. Her expression is scared and pleading. She comes close to me and stops and doesn't say anything. Someone has died, I think. Who has died? Dad? Kimmy? Philip? Say something, I ask. What's happened? I'm pregnant. How can you... Even as I say it, I know exactly how. Never mind. I remember. For me, that night was years ago, but for Claire, it is only weeks in the past. I was coming from 1996, when we were trying desperately to conceive, and Claire was barely awake. I curse myself for a careless fool. Claire is waiting for me to say something. I force myself to smile. Big surprise. Yeah. She looks a little teary. I take her into my arms, and she holds me tightly. Scared? I murmur into Claire's hair. Uh-huh. You were never scared before. I was crazy before. Now I know what it is. What can happen? We stand and think about what can happen. I hesitate. We could... I let it hang. No, I can't. It's true. Claire can't. Once a Catholic, always a Catholic. I say, maybe it will be good. A happy accident. Claire smiles, and I realize that she wants this, that she actually hopes that 7 will be our lucky number. My throat contracts, and I have to turn away. Thursday, April 19th, 2001. Henry is 37. Claire is 29. We are at Amit Montague's office for the ultrasound. Claire and I have been both eager and reluctant to have an ultrasound. We have refused amniocentesis because we are sure we will lose the baby if we poke a huge long needle at it. Claire is 18 weeks pregnant. Halfway there. If we could fold time in half right now like a Rorschach test, this would be the crease down the middle. We live in a state of holding breath, afraid to exhale for fear of breathing out the baby too soon. A nurse calls our names. We repair to an examining room. Claire gets undressed and gets on the table and is greased and scanned. The technician watches the monitor. Amit Montague, who is tall and regal and French-Moroccan, watches the monitor. Claire and I hold hands. We watch the monitor too. Slowly the image builds itself, bit by bit. On the screen is a weather map of the world, or a galaxy, a swirl of stars, or a baby. Bien joué, une fille, Dr. Montague says. She is sucking her thumb. She is very pretty and very big. Claire and I exhale. On the screen, a pretty galaxy is sucking her thumb. As we watch, she takes her hand away from her mouth. Dr. Montague says, she smiles. And so do we.
Monday, August 20th, 2001. Claire is 30. Henry is 38. The baby is due in 2 weeks, and we still haven't settled on a name for her. In fact, we've barely discussed it. We've been avoiding the whole subject superstitiously, as though naming the baby will cause the Furies to notice her and torment her. Finally, Henry brings home a book called Dictionary of Given Names. We're in bed. It's only 8:30 p.m., and I'm wiped out. I lie on my side, my belly a peninsula, facing Henry, who lies on his side facing me with his head propped on his arm, the book on the bed between us. We look at each other, smile nervously. Any thoughts? He says, leafing through the book. Jane, I reply. He makes a face. Jane? I used to name all my dolls and stuffed animals Jane, every one of them. Henry looks it up. It means gift of God. That works for me. What we need, Henry says, is a fresh start, a blank slate. Let's call her tabula rasa. Let's call her Tartanium White. Blanche, Blanca, Bianca, Alba, I say, as in Duchess of. Alba de Tamble. It rolls around in my mouth as I say it. That's nice. All the little I ams tripping along. He's flipping through the book. Alba, Latin. White, Provençal. Dawn of day. He laboriously clambers off the bed. I can hear him rummaging around in the living room. He returns after a few minutes with Volume 1 of the OED, the big Random House Dictionary, and my decrepit old Encyclopedia Americana Book 1, A to Annuals. A dawn song of the Provençal poets, in honor of their mistresses. Réveillés à l'aurore par le cri du guetteur, deux amants qui viennent de passer la nuit ensemble se séparent en maudissant le jour qui vient trop tôt. Tel est le thème, non moins invariable que celui de la pastorelle, d'un genre dont le nom est emprunté au mot alba, qui figure parfois au début de la pièce, et régulièrement à la fin de chaque couplet où il forme refrain. How sad. Let's try Random House. This is better. A white city on a hill, a fortress. He jettisons Random House off the bed and opens the encyclopedia. Aesop, Age of Reason, Alaska. Okay, here, Alba. He scans the entry. A bunch of now wiped-out towns in ancient Italy. And the Duke of Alba. I sigh and turn onto my back. The baby stirs. She must have been sleeping. Henry is back to perusing the OED. Amour, amorous, armadillo, bazooms. Goodness, the things they print these days in works of reference. He slides his hand under my nightgown, runs it slowly over my taut stomach. The baby kicks, hard, just where his hand is, and he starts and looks at me, amazed. His hands are roaming, finding their way across familiar and unfamiliar terrain. How many detambos can you fit in there? Oh, there's always room for one more. Alba, he says softly. A white city. An impregnable fortress on a white hill. She'll like it. Henry is pulling my underwear down my legs and over my ankles. He tosses it off the bed and looks at me. Careful, I tell him. Very careful, he agrees, as he strips off his clothes. I feel immense, like a continent in a sea of pillows and blankets. Henry bends over me from behind, moves over me, an explorer mapping my skin with his tongue. Slowly, slowly. I am afraid. A song sung by the troubadours at dawn. He is whispering to me as he enters me. To their mistresses, I reply. My eyes are closed, and I hear Henry as though from the next room. Just so. And then, yes. Yes.
Alba, an introduction. Wednesday, November 16th, 2011. Henry is 38. Claire is 40. I'm in the Surrealist Galleries at the Art Institute of Chicago, in the future. I am not perfectly dressed. The best I could do was a long black winter coat from the coat check room and pants from a guard's locker. I did manage to find shoes, which are always the most difficult thing to get. So I figure I'll lift a wallet, buy a t-shirt in the museum store, have lunch, see some art, and then launch myself out of the building and into the world of shops and hotel rooms. I have no idea where I am in time. Not too far out there. The clothing and haircuts are not too different from 2001. I'm simultaneously excited about this little sojourn and disturbed, because in my present, Claire is about to have Alba at any moment, and I absolutely want to be there. But on the other hand, this is an unusually high-quality slice of forward time travel. I feel strong and really present, really good. So I stand quietly in a dark room full of spotlit Joseph Cornell boxes, watching a school group following a docent, carrying little stools which they obediently sit on when she tells them to park themselves. I observe the group. The docent is the usual, a well-groomed woman in her 50s with impossibly blonde hair and taut face. The teacher, a good-humored young woman wearing light blue lipstick, stands at the back of the flock of students, ready to contain any who get boisterous. It's the students who interest me. They are all about 10 or so. 5th grade, I guess that would be. It's a Catholic school, so they all wear identical clothes, green plaid for the girls and navy blue for the boys. They are attentive and polite, but not excited. Too bad. I would think Cornell would be perfect for kids. The docent seems to think they are younger than they are. She talks to them as though they are little children. There's a girl in the back row who seems more engaged than the rest. I can't see her face. She has long, curly black hair and a peacock blue dress, which sets her apart from her peers. Every time the docent asks a question, this girl's hand goes up. But the docent never calls on her. I can see that the girl is getting fed up. The docent is talking about Cornell's aviary boxes. Each box is bleak, and many have white, painted interiors with perches, and the kind of holes that a birdhouse would have, and some have pictures of birds. They are the starkest and most austere of his pieces, without the whimsy of the soap bubble sets or the romance of the hotel boxes. Why do you think Mr. Cornell made these boxes? The docent brightly scans the children for a reply, ignoring the peacock blue girl, who is waving her hand like she has St. Vitus dance. A boy in the front says shyly that the artist must have liked birds. This is too much for the girl. She stands up with her hand in the air. The docent reluctantly says, "Yes. He made the boxes because he was lonely. He didn't have anyone to love, and he made the boxes so he could love them, and so people would know that he existed. And because birds are free, and the boxes are hiding places for the birds so they will feel safe. And he wanted to be free and be safe. The boxes are for him, so he can be a bird." The girl sits down. I am blown away by her answer. This is a 10-year-old who can empathize with Joseph Cornell. Neither the docent nor the class exactly knows what to make of this, but the teacher, who is obviously used to her, says, "Thank you, Alba. That's very perceptive." She turns and smiles gratefully at the teacher, and I see her face, and I am looking at my daughter. I have been standing in the next gallery, and I take a few steps forward to look at her, to see her, and she sees me, and her face lights up, and she jumps up, knocks over her little folding chair, and almost before I know it, I am holding Alba in my arms, holding her tight, kneeling before her with my arms around her as she says, "Daddy," over and over. Everyone is gaping at us. The teacher hurries over. She says, "Alba, who is this? Sir, who are you?" "I'm Henry de Tamble, Alba's father." "He's my daddy." The teacher is almost wringing her hands. "Sir, Alba's father is dead." I am speechless, but Alba, daughter mine, has a grip on the situation. "He's dead," she tells her teacher, "but he's not continuously dead." I find my wits. It's kind of hard to explain. "He's a CDP," says Alba, "like me." This seems to make perfect sense to the teacher, although it means nothing to me. The teacher is a bit pale under her makeup, but she looks sympathetic. Alba squeezes my hand. "Say something," is what she means. Miss Cooper. Miss Cooper, is there any possibility that Alba and I could have a few minutes here to talk? We don't see each other much. "Well, we're on a field trip. The group, I can't let you just take the child away from the group. I don't really know who you are, Mr. de Tamble. You see, let's call Mama," says Alba. She runs over to her school bag and whips out a cell phone. She presses a key and I hear the phone ringing, and I'm rapidly realizing that there are possibilities here. Someone picks up on the other end and Alba says, "Mama, I'm at the Art Institute. No, I'm okay. Mama, Daddy's here. Tell Mrs. Cooper it's really Daddy, okay? Yeah, okay, bye." She hands me the phone. I hesitate, pull my head together. "Claire?" There's a sharp intake of breath. "Claire? Henry? Oh, God, I can't believe it. Come home." "I'll try. When are you from?" 2001, just before Alba was born. I smile at Alba. She is leaning against me, holding my hand. "Maybe I should come down there." "That would be faster. Listen, could you tell this teacher that I'm really me?" "Sure. Where will you be?" "At the Lions. Come as fast as you can, Claire. It won't be much longer." "I love you." "I love you, Claire." I hesitate and then hand the phone to Mrs. Cooper. She and Claire have a short conversation, in which Claire somehow convinces her to let me take Alba to the museum entrance, where Claire will meet us. I thank Mrs. Cooper, who has been pretty graceful in a weird situation, and Alba and I walk hand in hand out of the Morton wing, down the spiral staircase, and into Chinese ceramics. My mind is racing what to ask first. Alba says, "Thank you for the videos. Mama gave them to me for my birthday." "What videos?" "I can do the Yale and the Master, and I'm working on the Walters." Locks. She's learning to pick locks. Great. Keep at it. Listen, Alba. Daddy? What's a CDP? Chrono-displaced person. We sit down on a bench in front of a Tang Dynasty porcelain dragon. Alba sits facing me with her hands in her lap. She looks exactly like me at 10. I can hardly believe any of this. Alba isn't even born yet, and here she is, Athena sprung full-blown. I level with her. "You know, this is the first time I've met you." Alba smiles. "How do you do?" She is the most self-possessed child I've ever met. I scrutinize her. Where is Claire in this child? "Do we see each other much?" She considers. "Not much. It's been about a year. I saw you a few times when I was 8. How old were you when I died?" I hold my breath. 5. Jesus. I can't deal with this. "I'm sorry. Should I not have said that?" Alba is contrite. I hug her to me. "It's okay. I asked, didn't I?" I take a deep breath. "How is Claire?" "Okay. Sad." This pierces me. I realize I don't want to know anything more. What about you? How's school? What are you learning? Alba grins. I'm not learning much in school, but I'm reading all about early instruments and Egypt, and Mama and I are reading Lord of the Rings, and I'm learning a tango by Astor Piazzolla. At 10? Heavens. Violin? Who's your teacher? Gramps. For a moment I think she means my grandfather, and then I realize she means Dad. This is great. If Dad is spending time with Alba, she must actually be good. Are you good? What a rude question. Yes, I'm very good. Thank God. I was never any good at music. That's what Gramps says, she giggles. But you like music? I love music. I just can't play it myself. I heard Grandma Annette sing. She was so beautiful. Which recording? I saw her for real. At the Lyric, she was singing Aida. She's a CDP. Like me. Oh, shit. You time travel? Sure. Alba smiles happily. Mama always says you and I are exactly alike. Dr. Kendrick says I am a prodigy. How so? Sometimes I can go when and where I want. Alba looks pleased with herself. I'm so envious. Can you not go at all if you don't want to? Well, no. She looks embarrassed. But I like it. I mean, sometimes it's not convenient, but it's interesting, you know? Yes, I know. Come and visit me, if you can be any time you want. I tried. I saw you once on the street. You were with a blonde woman. You seemed like you maybe were busy, though. Alba blushes, and all of a sudden Claire peeks out at me for just a tiny fraction of a second. That was Ingrid. I dated her before I met your mom. I wonder what we were doing, Ing and I, back then, that Alba is so discomfited by. I feel a pang of regret that I made a poor impression on this sober and lovely girl. Speaking of your mom, we should go out front and wait for her. The high-pitched, whining noise has set in, and I just hope Claire will get here before I'm gone. Alba and I get up and quickly make our way to the front steps. It's late fall, and Alba doesn't have a coat, so I wrap mine around both of us. I am leaning against the granite slab that supports one of the lions, facing south, and Alba leans against me, encased in my coat, pressed against my bare torso with just her face sticking out at the level of my chest. It's a rainy day. Traffic swims along Michigan Avenue. I am drunk with the overwhelming love I feel for this amazing child, who presses against me as though she belongs to me, as though we will never be separated, as though we have all the time in the world. I am clinging to this moment, fighting fatigue and the pulling of my own time. Let me stay. I implore my body, God, Father Time, Santa, anybody who might be listening, just let me see Claire, and I'll come along peacefully. There's Mama, says Alba. A white car, unfamiliar to me, is speeding toward us. It pulls up to the intersection and Claire jumps out, leaving it where it is, blocking traffic. Henry! I try to run to her. She is running, and I collapse onto the steps, and I stretch out my arms toward Claire. Alba is holding me and yelling something, and Claire is only a few feet from me, and I use my last reserves of will to look at Claire, who seems so far away, and I say as clearly as I can, I love you, and I'm gone. Damn.
7:20 p.m., Friday, August 24th, 2001. Claire is 30. Henry is 38. I'm lying on the battered chaise lounge in the backyard with books and magazines cast adrift all around me, and a half-drunk glass of lemonade now diluted with melted ice cubes at my elbow. It's beginning to cool off a bit. It was 85 degrees earlier. Now there's a breeze, and the cicadas are singing their late summer song. 15 jets have passed over me on their way to O'Hare from distances unknown. My belly looms before me, anchoring me to this spot. Henry has been gone since 8 o'clock yesterday morning, and I am beginning to be afraid. What if I go into labor and he's not here? What if I have the baby and he still isn't back? What if he's hurt? What if he's dead? What if I die? These thoughts chase each other, like those weird fur pieces old ladies used to wear around their necks with the tail in the mouth, circling around until I can't stand one more minute of it. Usually I like to fret in a whirl of activity. I worry about Henry while I scrub down the studio or do 9 loads of wash or pull 3 posts of paper. But now I lie here, beached by my belly in the early evening sun of our backyard, while Henry is out there, doing whatever it is that he's doing. Oh, God, bring him back. Now. But nothing happens. Mr. Panetta drives down the alley and his garage door screeches open and then closed. A good humor truck comes and goes. The fireflies begin their evening revels. But no Henry. I'm getting hungry. I'm going to starve to death in the backyard because Henry is not here to make dinner. Alba is squirming around, and I consider getting up and going into the kitchen and fixing some food and eating it. But then I decide to do the same thing I always do when Henry isn't around to feed me. I get up slowly, in increments, and walk sedately into the house. I find my purse, and I turn on a few lights, and I let myself out the front door and lock it. It feels good to be moving. Once again, I am surprised, and am surprised to be surprised, that I'm so huge in one part of my body only, like someone whose plastic surgery has gone wrong. Like one of those women in an African tribe whose idea of beauty requires extremely elongated necks or lips or earlobes. I balance my weight against Alba's, and in this Siamese twin dancing manner, we walk to the Opartai restaurant. The restaurant is cool and full of people. I'm ushered to a table in the front window. I order spring rolls and pad thai with tofu, bland and safe. I drink a whole glass of water. Alba presses against my bladder. I go to the restroom, and when I come back, food is on the table. I eat. I imagine the conversation Henry and I would be having if he were here. I wonder where he might be. I mentally comb through my memory, trying to fit the Henry who vanished while putting on his pants yesterday with any Henry I have seen in my childhood. This is a waste of time. I'll just have to wait for the story from himself. Maybe he's back. I have to stop myself from bolting out of the restaurant to go check. The entree arrives. I squeeze lime over the noodles and scoop them into my mouth. I picture Alba, tiny and pink, curled inside me, eating pad thai with tiny, delicate chopsticks. I picture her with long black hair and green eyes. She smiles and says, "Thanks, Mama." I smile and tell her, "You're welcome. So very welcome." She has a tiny stuffed animal in there with her, named Alfonso. Alba gives Alfonso some tofu. I finish eating. I sit for a few minutes, resting. Someone at the next table lights up a cigarette. I pay and leave. I toddle down Western Avenue. A car full of Puerto Rican teenagers yells something at me, but I don't catch it. Back at the ranch, I fumble for my keys, and Henry swings the door open and says, "Thank God," and flings his arms around me. We kiss. I'm so relieved to see him that it takes me a few minutes to realize that he's also extremely relieved to see me. "Where have you been?" Henry demands. "Opart, where have you been?" "You didn't leave a note, and I came home and you weren't here, and I thought you were at the hospital. So I called, but they said you weren't." I start laughing, and it's hard to stop. Henry looks perplexed. When I can say something, I tell him, "Now you know how it feels." He smiles. "Sorry, but I didn't know where you were, and I sort of panicked. I thought I'd missed Alba." "But where were you?" Henry grins. Wait till you hear this. Just a minute, let's sit down. Let's lie down, I'm beat. What'd you do all day? Played around. Poor Claire, no wonder you're tired. I go into the bedroom and turn on the air conditioner and pull the shades. Henry veers into the kitchen and appears after a few minutes with drinks. I arrange myself on the bed and receive ginger ale. Henry kicks off his shoes and joins me with a beer in hand. Tell all. Well, he raises one eyebrow and opens his mouth and closes it. I don't know how to begin. Spit it out. I have to start by saying that this is by far the weirdest thing that has ever happened to me. Weirder than you and me? Yeah. I mean, that felt reasonably natural. Boy meets girl. Weirder than watching your mom die over and over? Well, that's just a horrible routine by now. It's a bad dream I have every so often. No, this was just surreal. He runs his hand over my belly. I went forward, and I was really there, coming in strong, and I ran into our little girl here. Oh my God. I'm so jealous, but wow. Yeah, she was about 10. Claire, she is so amazing. She's smart and musical and just really confident, and nothing fazed her. What does she look like? Me. A girl version of me. I mean, she's beautiful. She's got your eyes. But basically, she looks a lot like me. Black hair, pale with a few freckles, and her mouth is smaller than mine was, and her ears don't stick out. She had long, curly hair, and my hands with the long fingers, and she's tall. She was like a young cat. Perfect. Perfect. I'm afraid my genes have had their way with her. She was like you in personality, though. She had the most amazing presence. I saw her in a group of school children at the Art Institute, and she was talking about Joseph Cornell's aviary boxes, and she said something heartrending about him. And somehow, I knew who she was, and she recognized me. Well, I would hope so. I have to ask, is she? Henry hesitates. Yes, he finally says. She does. We're both silent. He strokes my face. I know. I want to cry. Claire? She seemed happy. I asked her. She said she likes it. He smiles. She said it was interesting. We both laugh, a little ruefully at first, and then it hits me. And we laugh in earnest, until our faces hurt, until tears are streaming down our cheeks. Because, of course, it is interesting. Very interesting.
Birthday. Wednesday, September 5th. Thursday, September 6th, 2001. Henry is 38. Claire is 30. Claire has been pacing around the house all day like a tiger. The contractions come every 20 minutes or so. Try to get some sleep, I tell her, and she lies on the bed for a few minutes and then gets up again. At 2 in the morning, she finally goes to sleep. I lie next to her, wakeful, watching her breathe, listening to the little fretful sounds she makes, playing with her hair. I am worried, even though I have seen with my own eyes that she will be okay, and Alba will be okay. Claire wakes up at 3:30. I want to go to the hospital, she tells me. Maybe we should call a cab, I say. It's awfully late. Gomez said to call no matter what time it was. Okay. I dial Gomez and Charisse. The phone rings 16 times, and then Gomez picks up, sounding like a man on the bottom of the sea. Huh, says Gomez. Hey, comrade, it's time. He mutters something that sounds like mustard eggs. Then Charisse gets on the phone and tells me that they are on their way. I hang up and call Dr. Montague and leave a message with her answering service. Claire is crouched on all fours, rocking back and forth. I get down on the floor with her. Claire? She looks up at me, still rocking. Henry, why did we decide to do this again? Supposedly, when it's over, they hand you a baby and let you keep it. Oh, yeah. 15 minutes later, we are climbing into Gomez's Volvo. Gomez yawns as he helps me maneuver Claire into the back seat. Do not even think of drenching my car in amniotic fluid, he says to Claire amiably. Charisse runs into the house for garbage bags and covers the seats. We hop in and away we go. Claire leans against me and clenches my hands in hers. Don't leave me, she says. I won't, I tell her. I meet Gomez's eyes in the rearview mirror. It hurts, Claire says. Oh, God, it hurts. Think of something else, something nice, I say. We are racing down Western Avenue heading south. There's hardly any traffic. Tell me. I cast about and come up with my most recent sojourn into Claire's childhood. Remember the day we went to the lake, when you were 12, and we went swimming and you were telling me about getting your period? Claire is gripping my hands with bone-shattering strength. Did I? Yeah, you were sort of embarrassed, but also real proud of yourself. You were wearing a pink and green bikini and these yellow sunglasses with hearts molded into the frames. I remember. Oh, Henry, it hurts. It hurts. Charisse turns around and says, Come on, Claire. It's just the baby leaning on your spine. You've got to turn, okay? Claire tries to change her position. Here we are, Gomez says, turning into Mercy Hospital's emergency unloading zone. I'm leaking, Claire says. Gomez stops the car, jumps out, and we gently remove Claire from the car. She takes 2 steps, and her water breaks. Good timing, kitten, Gomez says. Charisse runs ahead with our paperwork, and Gomez and I walk Claire slowly through ER and down long corridors to the OB wing. She stands leaning against the nurse's station while they nonchalantly prepare a room for her. Don't leave me, Claire whispers. I won't, I tell her again. I wish I could be sure about this. I am feeling cold and a little nauseous. Claire turns and leans into me. I wrap my arms around her. The baby is a hard roundness between us. Come out, wherever you are. Claire is panting. A fat blonde nurse comes and tells us the room is ready. We all troop in. Claire immediately gets down on the floor on her hands and knees. Charisse starts putting things away. Clothes in the closet, toiletries in the bathroom. Gomez and I stand watching Claire helplessly. She is moaning. We look at each other. Gomez shrugs. Charisse says, Hey, Claire, how about a bath? You'll feel better in warm water. Claire nods. Charisse makes a motion with her hands at Gomez that means shoo. Gomez says, I think I'll go have a smoke, and leaves. Should I stay? I ask Claire. Yes, don't go. Stay where I can see you. Okay. I walk into the bathroom to run the bathwater. Hospital bathrooms creep me out. They always smell like cheap soap and diseased flesh. I turn on the tap, wait for the water to get warm. Henry! Are you there? Claire calls out. I stick my head back into the room. I'm here. Stay in here, Claire commands, and Charisse takes my place in the bathroom. Claire makes a sound that I have never heard a human being make before. A deep, despairing groan of agony. What have I done to her? I think of 12-year-old Claire laughing and covered with wet sand on a blanket in her first bikini at the beach. Oh, Claire, I'm sorry. An older black nurse comes in and checks Claire's cervix. Good girl, she coos to Claire. 6 centimeters. Claire nods and smiles and then grimaces. She clutches her belly and doubles over, moaning louder. The nurse and I hold her. Claire gasps for breath and then starts to scream. Amit Montague walks in and rushes to her. Baby, hush. The nurse is giving Dr. Montague a bunch of information that means nothing to me. Claire is sobbing. I clear my throat. My voice comes out in a croak. How about an epidural? Claire? Claire nods. People crowd into the room with tubes and needles and machines. I sit holding Claire's hand, watching her face. She is lying on her side, whimpering, her face wet with sweat and tears as the anesthesiologist hooks up an IV and inserts a needle into her spine. Dr. Montague is examining her and frowning at the fetal monitor. What's wrong? Claire asks her. Something's wrong. The heartbeat is very fast. She is scared, your little girl. You have to be calm, Claire, so the baby can be calm, yes? It hurts so much. That is because she is big. Amit Montague's voice is quiet, soothing. The burly, walrus-mustachioed anesthesiologist looks at me, bored, over Claire's body. But now we are giving you a little cocktail, eh? Some narcotic, some analgesic. Soon you will relax. And the baby will relax, yes? Claire nods yes. Dr. Montague smiles. And Henry, how are you? Not very relaxed. I try to smile. I could use some of whatever it is they're giving Claire. I'm experiencing slight double vision. I breathe deeply, and it goes away. Things are improving, see? Says Dr. Montague. It is like a cloud that passes over. The pain goes away. We take it somewhere and leave it by the side of the road, all by itself. And you and the little one are still here, yes? It is pleasant here. We will take our time. There is no hurry. The tension has left Claire's face. Her eyes are fixed on Dr. Montague. The machines beep. The room is dim. Outside the sun is rising. Dr. Montague is watching the fetal monitor. Tell her you are fine, and she is fine. Sing her a song, yes? Alba, it's okay, Claire says softly. She looks at me. Say the poem about the lovers on the carpet. I blank, and then I remember. I feel self-conscious reciting Rilke in front of all of these people, and so I begin. Engel, es wäre ein Platz, den wir nicht wissen. Say it in English, Claire interrupts. Sorry. I change my position so that I am sitting by Claire's belly with my back to Charisse and the nurse and the doctor. I slide my hand under Claire's button-strained shirt. I can feel the outline of Alba through Claire's hot skin. Angel, I say to Claire, as though we are in our own bed, as though we have been up all night on less momentous errands. Angel, if there were a place that we didn't know of, and there on some unsayable carpet lovers displayed what they could never bring to mastery here, the bold exploits of their high-flying hearts, their towers of pleasure, their ladders that have long since been standing where there was no ground, leaning just on each other, trembling, and could master all this before the surrounding spectators, the innumerable soundless dead. Would these, then, throw down their final, forever saved up, forever hidden unknown to us, eternally valid coins of happiness before the at last genuinely smiling pair on the gratified carpet? There, says Dr. Montague, clicking off the monitor. Everyone is serene. She beams at us all and glides out the door, followed by the nurse. I accidentally catch the eye of the anesthesiologist, whose expression plainly says, "What kind of pussy are you, anyway?"
The sun is coming up, and I am lying numb on this strange bed in this pink room. And somewhere in the foreign country that is my uterus, Alba is crawling toward home, or away from home. The pain has left, but I know that it has not gone far, that it is sulking somewhere in a corner or under the bed, and it will jump out when I least expect it. The contractions come and go, remote, muffled like the peal of bells through fog. Henry lies down next to me. People come and go. I feel like throwing up, but I don't. Charisse gives me shaved ice out of a paper cup. It tastes like stale snow. I watch the tubes and the red blinking lights, and I think about Mama. I breathe. Henry watches me. He looks so tense and unhappy. I start to worry again that he will vanish. "It's okay," I say. He nods. He strokes my belly. I'm sweating. It's so hot in here. The nurse comes in and checks on me. Amit checks on me. I am somehow alone with Alba in the midst of everyone. "It's okay," I tell her. "You're doing fine. You're not hurting me." Henry gets up and paces back and forth until I ask him to stop. I feel as though all my organs are becoming creatures, each with its own agenda, its own train to catch. Alba is tunneling headfirst into me, a bone and flesh excavator of my flesh and bone, a deepener of my depths. I imagine her swimming through me. I imagine her falling into the stillness of a morning pond, water parting at her velocity. I imagine her face. I want to see her face. I tell the anesthesiologist I want to feel something. Gradually, the numbness recedes, and the pain comes back, but it's different pain now. It's okay pain. Time passes. Time passes, and the pain begins to roll in and out as though it's a woman standing at an ironing board, passing the iron back and forth across a white tablecloth. Amit comes in and says it's time to go to the delivery room. I am shaved and scrubbed and moved onto a gurney and rolled through hallways. I watch the ceilings of the hallways roll by, and Alba and I are rolling toward meeting each other, and Henry is walking beside us. In the delivery room, everything is green and white. I smell detergent. It reminds me of Etta, and I want Etta, but she is at Meadowlark. And I look up at Henry, who is wearing surgical scrubs, and I think, why are we here? We should be at home. And then I feel as though Alba is surging, rushing, and I push without thinking, and we do this again and again, like a game, like a song. Someone says, "Hey, where'd the dad go?" I look around, but Henry is gone. He is nowhere, not here, and I think, God damn him. But no, I don't mean it, God. But Alba is coming. She's coming, and then I see Henry. He stumbles into my vision, disoriented and naked, but here, he's here. And Amit says, "Sacre Dieu," and then, she has crowned. And I push, and Alba's head comes out, and I put my hand down to touch her head, her delicate, slippery, wet velvet head, and I push, and Alba tumbles into Henry's waiting hands, and someone says, "Oh!" And I am empty and released, and I hear a sound like an old vinyl record when you put the needle in the wrong groove, and then Alba yells out, and suddenly she's here. Someone places her on my belly, and I look down, and her face, Alba's face, is so pink and creased, and her hair is so black, and her eyes blindly search, and her hands reach out, and Alba pulls herself up to my breasts, and she pauses, exhausted by the effort, by the sheer fact of everything. Henry leans over me and touches her forehead and says, "Alba." Later. It's the evening of Alba's first day on Earth. I'm lying in bed in the hospital room, surrounded by balloons and teddy bears and flowers, with Alba in my arms. Henry is sitting cross-legged on the foot of the bed, taking pictures of us. Alba has just finished nursing, and she blows colostrum bubbles from her tiny lips, and then falls asleep, a soft, warm bag of skin and fluid against my nightgown. Henry finishes the roll of film and unloads the camera. "Hey," I say, suddenly remembering. "Where did you go? In the delivery room?" Henry laughs. You know, I was hoping you hadn't noticed that. I thought maybe you were so preoccupied. Where were you? I was wandering around my old elementary school in the middle of the night. For how long? I ask. Oh, God, hours. It was beginning to get light when I left. It was winter and they had the heat turned way down. How long was I gone? I'm not sure. Maybe 5 minutes? Henry shakes his head. I was frantic. I mean, I had just abandoned you, and there I was, just drifting around uselessly through the hallways of Francis Parker. It was so... I felt so... Henry smiles. But it turned out okay, I laugh. All's well that ends well. Thou speakest wiser than thou art ware of. There's a quiet knock on the door. Henry says, "Come in," and Richard steps into the room and then stops, hesitant. Henry turns and says, "Dad," and then stops, and then jumps off the bed and says, "Come in. Have a seat." Richard is carrying flowers and a small teddy bear, which Henry adds to the pile on the windowsill. "Claire," says Richard, "Congratulations." He sinks slowly into the chair beside the bed. Would you like to hold her?" Henry asks softly. Richard nods, looking at me to see if I agree. Richard looks as though he hasn't slept for days. His shirt needs ironing, and he stinks of sweat and the iodine reek of old beer. I smile at him, although I am wondering if this is such a hot idea. I hand Alba over to Henry, who carefully transfers her into Richard's awkward arms. Alba turns her pink round face up to Richard's long, unshaven one, turns toward his chest, and searches for a nipple. After a moment she gives up and yawns, then goes back to sleep. He smiles. I had forgotten how Richard's smile can transform his face. "She's beautiful," he tells me. And to Henry, "She looks like your mother." Henry nods. "There's your violinist, Dad." He smiles. It skipped a generation. "A violinist?" Richard looks down at the sleeping baby, black hair and tiny hands, fast asleep. No one ever looked less like a concert violinist than Alba does right now. "A violinist." He shakes his head. "But how do you—" "No. Never mind." "So, you are a violinist, are you now, little girl?" Alba sticks out her tongue a tiny bit, and we all laugh. "She'll need a teacher once she's old enough," I suggest. "A teacher? Yes. You're not going to hand her over to those Suzuki idiots, are you?" Richard demands. Henry coughs. Actually, we were hoping that if you had nothing better to do..." Richard gets it. It's a pleasure to see him comprehend, to see him realize that someone needs him, that only he can give his only granddaughter the training she will need. "I'd be delighted," he says, and Alba's future unrolls in front of her like a red carpet as far as the eye can see. Nature Morte. Sunday, July 11th, 2004. Claire is 33. Henry is 41. Henry is sleeping, bruised and caked with blood, on the kitchen floor. I don't want to move him or wake him. I sit with him on the cool linoleum for a while. Eventually, I get up and make coffee. As the coffee streams into the pot and the grounds make little exploding puffs, Henry whimpers and puts his hands over his eyes. It's obvious that he's been beaten. One eye is swollen shut. The blood seems to have come from his nose. I don't see any wounds, just radiant purple, fist-sized bruises all over his body. He's very thin.
I can see all his vertebrae and ribs. His pelvis juts, his cheeks are hollow. His hair has grown down almost to his shoulders. There is gray shot through it. There are cuts on his hands and feet, and insect bites everywhere on his body. He is very tanned and filthy, grime under nails, dirt sweated into creases of his skin. He smells of grass, blood, and salt. After watching him and sitting with him for a while, I decide to wake him. "Henry," I say very softly. "Wake up now, you're home. I stroke his face carefully and he opens his eyes. I can tell he's not quite awake. Claire, he mumbles. Claire, tears begin to stream from his good eye, he is shaking with sobbing, and I pull him into my lap. I am crying. Henry is curled in my lap, there on the floor. We shake tightly together, rocking, crying our relief and our anguish together.